things come to those who wait. Just ask Glenn Seaton, who won the Sandown Touring Car Round back in 1987, only to come up dry in the Shell Series till Symmons Plains a few weeks ago. On Sunday, March 15, he blitzed the opposition to win both legs of the championship. Maximum points, and boosting him to third on the leaderboard behind Nissan teammates Mark Scaife and Jim Richards. Today, 7 Sport Creature from Winton Motor Raceway in northeastern Victoria, one of the shortest tracks on the Shell National Tour. Everything points towards a Nissan ambush here today in Ned Kelly country. The Sierras will certainly do it tough, but don't count Holden out of round 4 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Proudly brought to you by Shell and Synovus Vitamins. Hello Australia, I'm Mike Raymond. Welcome to Winton Motor Raceway and round 4 of the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship. Well, Team Nissan have been extremely hard to beat at Winton over the past 4 years, and I'm quite sure my co-commentator Alan Moffat feels the same way as I do. They'll be tough to beat here today, Alan.
They will be, Mike. The four-wheel drive comes into its own here, short jig-jag corners, and they only have to pick the right tyre combination and they'll be in good shape.
What about Holden? Larry Perkins, a great qualifying effort yesterday, and he's in the second row today.
An extreme job. He protected himself in the Jackson Dash this morning, and I think he is in there with a chance, for sure.
Well, of course, the Peter Jackson Dash early on Sunday morning provides plenty of action. And, of course, the draw for starting positions is even more interesting. Today, of course, we saw Mark Scaife get off from the front row. Second spot held by Glenn Seaton in the number 30 Peter Jackson Sierra, and right behind him was Jimmy Richards, who unfortunately just couldn't come up with victory. So Jimmy Richards was fastest in practice yesterday, but Mark Scaife has pole for today, and Glenn Seaton alongside him. Andy Raymond is with Mark Scaife.
Thanks, Mike, and the domination has started already. It's a Nissan track, Mark Scaife.
Oh, it is, Andy. You know, the four-wheel drive car around here is a very big advantage, and even though it was only a 3-lap race, you know, it stands us in good stead for the next one.
The BMWs, you said, are also going to be more competitive than the Sierras.
I think towards the end of the second race, they'll be very, very hard to beat. And the tyre they chose is a very hard tyre. They'll be good, you know, in the second heat for sure.
For sure. Well, that's what Mark Scaife believes about it. Well, I think BMW and maybe Larry Perkins with the Holden are in this with a bit of a chance today. Well, of course, not only touring cars hold the spotlight at Winton Motor Raceway today, we have round 4 of the Shell Oil Superbike Series and a very interesting situation on the point score. Young Matt Mladen riding for Team Kawasaki, a perfect score after 3 rounds. Scotty Doohan for the Peter Jackson Yamaha team runs in second. James Knight, the second of the Kawasaki riders, in third. And they're followed by Troy Corser and, of course, Malcolm Campbell for Winfield Honda. And Matt Mladen, of course, yesterday setting fast time, but that wasn't until after he experienced a little touch to terra firma here at Winton Motor Raceway. Well, keep an eye on him today. The touring car is about to come out onto the racetrack now for heat number 1. Let's take a look at the grid today. It's heat number 1 of round 4, the Shell Series. And here is the lineup. Mark Scaife in the Winfield Nissan GTR, a 101.00. Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra. Out of 3 in car number 1, Jimmy Richards, the second of the Winfield Nissans. From position number 4, Larry Perkins in the Castrol Commodore. From 5 in car number 18, John Bow in the Shell Sierra. From position number 6, from Queensland, it's Dickie Johnson. From 7 in 05, Peter Brock, the Mobil 1 Commodore. Out of position 8 and 25, Tony Longhurst, the Benson and Hedges BMW. From 9, it's car number 8, Colin Bond in the Caltech Sierra. And rounding out the 10, Mark Gibbs in the GIO Nissan GTR. A very competitive and full field. 20 starters here today at Winton Motor Raceway as we bid good afternoon to Mark Osler and a few up the back there. Mark with a chance in the second heat.
Yes, good afternoon, Mike. Good afternoon, everyone. Certainly the front 6 were shuffled around in the 3-lap dash this morning, but the times are significant. The top 8 are covered by less than a second. Everyone's going about half a second faster around here than they were last year, and we certainly should be in for a good contest. Well,
the start is going to be critical. We're about 10 seconds away from the start now of heat number 1, round 4 from Winton. They sat there, Scaife went out, and so did Richards. Through quickly went John Bow on the inside of Larry Perkins as they come down to the right-hander, and this is really just a funnel as they come off the straight. Then they work downhill slightly to another right-hander that sees the 2 Nissans with Scaife opening it up to 3 car lengths over Jimmy Richards. Right behind him is Glenn Seaton, then followed by John Bow. Next on the queue is Larry Perkins. Dick Johnson was up pretty smartly as they went through there, and I think perhaps then Peter Brock. That's the order. and you just can't beat that four-wheel drive car off the line, Alan Moffat.
No, you can't, but Glenn Seaton was holding his engine beautifully. He looked like he was going to get a very good start, and just at the very last second before the light went to green, he backed off momentarily and stalled his slingshot shot, and that gave Jim Richards the chance he needed.
That's all Richards did need, because Scaife opens it up to about 5 car lengths coming down the back straight. Here's the rest of them coming into the a tough series that they call the S's here. Just watch this as Seaton comes up well and truly behind Jim Richards. They accelerate hard, but this is a tough turn. The next one, the right-hander for brakes. John Bow is up right behind Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson Sierra as they go downhill marginally, then into another right-hander.
Bowie wouldn't have wanted to get stuck behind Larry. There's an awfully wide Commodore today. Larry up there on 4th position off the grid, in a position to look good in these opening laps. But John Bowes obviously said, I've got to get up there on the tail of Glenn Seaton. I've got to stay close to the front and go from there.
This should be quite an absorbing battle, because last year we had the 2 Nissans in Seaton in 1st, 2nd and 3rd, but that was in the old 50-minute format. Now we've got these shorter sprint races. It'll be interesting to see the tyre battle, particularly because Yokohama are the winning tyre around Winton. They've won the qualifying war the last 3 years here, and also won the race the last 3 years. So it should be quite an absorbing battle between the tyre companies as well.
Well, Larry Perkins, of course, on Dunlop, he's got some Bedrock specials on today, direct from Fred Flintstone. They're the toughest tyres that you can possibly find. He's going to do it tough in the opening 5 or 6 laps of this race. Would you agree, Al?
Yes, I do, and I think that's what you're seeing now, that John Bow has obviously got a compound with a little bit more snap in it, and he was able to get past Larry very quickly. But Larry's thinking about getting some good points out of this round. He wants to do well overall, and all the drivers that want to get on the podium after the second heat have got to be thinking about what they're doing right now. This is not just getting the checkered flag in this heat. They've got another 20 laps this afternoon that have got to pay dividends for them.
What a marvellous difference a fortnight makes. Who'll forget that Simmons Plains, when the Nissan GTRs were outgunned, they sounded like they were down on power, and it had the transplant. The spirit of youth has returned to the Nissan. Sounds like they're revving them about 3,000 RPMs more. Of course, going into today, they're chasing almost an unbeaten record here, so I guess everyone expected them to win. But I have a feeling that if they stretch out and win here today, and perhaps some people would suggest show their true colours, the handicapper is going to catch them within 48 hours.
Well, honestly, I think I got to be careful here with my political hat, Michael, but honestly, I do believe that these cars have not reached the equation that it is desirable. They have an unquestioned advantage with the four-wheel drive, and certainly the handicap that was put in place over Christmas for effect at the beginning of this season has not worked out to the benefit of all parties.
Oh, that's very good. That's not political. It's very good.
Thank you.
You can get you at the seat of wheels next week. Up into the next right-hander. They're getting a little bit closer as Perkins gets up on the tail of John Bow. And right behind Perkins, he's got Dickie Johnson, Peter Brock, and then, of course, the two Bimmers, Tony Longhurst and Alan Jones, and the Benson and Hedges M3s. And I think you can probably wait around for the second heat and find that the BMWs with their tyres will make life very, very uncomfortable. And here's Mark Gibbs in the GIO coming down on the inside here of Peter Brock.
Certainly Bob Forbes expected this to happen, to see the GIO car pushing its way through the field. This car was very quick here on Friday and Saturday, but Mark admits that in qualifying he just stuffed it up. He just couldn't put a good lap together, and he ended up down the grid. But as you can see, the times of the grid were very tight. And certainly Bob Forbes expected Mark to push his way through the field, which he's doing now.
Yeah, well, a lot of people think that the qualifying is only with the Peter Jackson dash in the morning this morning, Mark, but yesterday is still official qualifying for the total field. Everybody has to get into the race today, and obviously 7th on down is still a position that has to be fought for. And Mark just didn't get everything he wanted together on the lap that he needed to do it.
You notice the BMs are working across to the inside. They certainly haven't got anything near the acceleration or the grunt of the Holden. And this is the world's worst course if you're trying to pass on, if you miss the kick.
It's a wide Commodore that you would be brave man getting by there, but Tony will be watching for a chance under brakes, just a little little nudge there to let Peter know I'm thinking about it, but it's not Brocky's job to pull over and say, pass me. He's got to take the defensive line, and he's entitled to do that. Alan Jones doing a very nice job of shadowing the boss on Tony Longhurst's bumper bar. And quite honestly, these BMWs are poised here to make a real nuisance of themselves shortly.
This is the battle to stay into the top 10. Brock's in 8th, the BMW's 9th and 10th. So the BM's running in the top 10 consistently, as we've seen throughout the year.
And they're doing a great job here today at Winton. Expect the Bimmers. I wouldn't be at all surprised, and I'm not looking into my scrutiny as crystal ball for the next round at Lakeside, the first Sunday in May. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bimmers lose the other 20 kilos of weight, which will put them back as they were running last year. I think everyone believes that Holden, which is sitting there with a 7,500 RPM limiter, should probably open up to 7,800 or maybe even 8,000 to let them get a little more air in and make them more competitive, and maybe some weight on the Nissans and the Sierra.
Well, it is a power to weight formula, Michael. It doesn't matter what you do. You can be Einstein with a slide rule, but it is power to weight. If you weigh X pounds or X kilos and you've got X horsepower, then you're in a straight line. That's going to be your performance level. And no driver can survive without a respectable level of horsepower.
In the German Touring Car Championship, for each round they change the weights and measures, and of course they keep the cars very, very competitive. Do you think we've seen enough changing of weights and specifications? We've only had...
No, not at all. We've had one, which was the initial change, so forget that. That had to happen anyway to bring 92 into gear. And we haven't had anything since the beginning of the year. One minor adjustment to the BMWs for Sandown, 20 kilos. Well, that'll tickle their big toe. Another 20 might start to see some possibilities for them. But the car that is genuinely disadvantaged, the mark that is disadvantaged in this year's formula, is the Holden.
Yep.
Anyone with a blind... I don't want to say blind Freddy. I better say anybody can see that.
Well, here they come through the turn. Dickie Johnson tried to keep Mark Gibbs under control. Gibbs is starting to make a lunge at Johnson now in the 17 car as they head up to Penrite corner. The two Nissans continue to lead. Round number 4, heat number 1 here today. Mark Scaife over Jim Richards, and Mark, of course, looking to increase his lead in the championship.
Well, the two factory cars, or the Gibson cars, are on Yokohama, tailor-made for them, but Mark Gibbs has got Dunlop, so we're looking at a Dunlop battle here between Dick Johnson, long stalwart of the Dunlop brand, and the GIO car also on Dunlops. Peter Brock's coming through, yes?
Yep, Rocky's there, and Longhurst keeps continually pulling out of the draft. There's not much he can do when they come down the back straight, but watch the little Bimmer here. They're under full load. If he can get across to the inside of Brock and try and just snap Brock under brakes.
He knows that he has to be absolutely parallel with him, though, Mike. He can't take a chance of just having a jab, because Rocky's entitled to take that corner if he's got his nose in front. And Tony, being a smaller car, if that Commodore comes over on them, there won't be much of the BMW left.
And also, Mark, just how even the Bimmers are here today. Normally, the lead car can open up a bit more than the second car, but Jonesy and Longhurst obviously have absolutely identical setup, or close to it. He hasn't hosed Alan Jones off at all.
And you can see the difficulty these guys are having, this concertina effect on these tight corners. You have to back off to wait for the guy in front of you to accelerate into the corner. By that stage, he's got you, and there's never a situation around here where they can overtake. Look at this. They go right outside, try and get some clean air, and he's got no chance of taking Brock as they head down under brakes. So it's a very frustrating race here for the BMWs.
I'd say that on that occasion, Tony actually held Alan Jones up. He made a move, a little bit of a mistake there. He went to the left in the bottom corners, and Jonesy tucked in on the right-hand side, but he had to give way, obviously, not going to ramrod your own teammate. But it is very close here at the moment, and the lead cars just can't get that gap. There's no straight here to speak of, and as such, the horsepower equivalencies between all the cars is minimized.
Yeah, there's nothing on this racetrack. It is bone flat. I wouldn't say it has a great deal of character to it. You probably fit it in the Red S car park in your local suburb, but it does keep them together. And we've had Bob Forbes in the GIO car that's just had a little off, and that'd be fairly expensive, and that's dropping back about 4 spots. We'll have a look at this and see what happened with the Bob Forbes car as we take the race cam. This is the Dunlop race cam out the back of Dick Johnson's car. Here comes Forbes up on the inside of Johnson. Just pokes the nose down.
Looks like he got a bit sideways there, yeah.
And he's gone off onto the grass. And exit Bob Forbes.
Brake lock up, yes, just had to stand on it. He didn't have enough real estate with Dick in front of him.
Gibbs rejoined in 14th place.
It's going to be a hard old bit of yakka from 14th to make the 10.
He can scrap that now, he's had it.
And this battle to get into the top 10 continues. And there's the man leading the top 10, Gibbs. Scaife. And you can see the gap between Scaife and Richards now is closing. We've got it down to just over 2 seconds. So Richards puts the pressure on. Mark Scaife still leading. Richards in second. Glenn Seaton in third. Larry Perkins in the Commodore in fourth. John Bowe rounds out the top 5.
Back here at Winton Motor Raceway, this fascinating scrap between Peter Brock and the Mobil 1 Commodore. And of course, Tony Longhurst and Alan Jones continues in midfield. They've been hammer and tongs for the last 10 laps. But I think Longhurst, Alan is perhaps just a little bit closer. In fact, it's Brock who's starting to do a bit of defensive driving now to keep Tony Longhurst at bay. So keep an eye on this when they come through the S's and work the front straight, and particularly the braking area for the next right-hander. Now he's almost line astern, comes down the inside. If he can keep on under brakes, here he comes, moment of truth on the inside. And you watch Jones up on the inside. They're going to hang Brock out to dry here. Beautiful driving from the Bimmer pair. Fascinating stuff, this. David and Goliath as Tony Longhurst and Alan Jones in the Benson and Hedges car muscle their way past Peter Brock. We take Dunlop race cam. Here's Tony Longhurst down the inside. Jones just sits right behind him. And they're in a lot of traffic here, as you can see, they're taking the right-hander at Penrite.
9 laps to go. This is the battle for 7th, 8th and 9th. And here comes Tony again.
He won't get Dick there, but he might be able to get him under brakes again, where he and Alan Jones were able to nobble Brock a couple of laps ago.
Not quite close enough this time, and
he is now.
That's all he needed. That's all he needed.
Down the inside, let's see. There he goes on the inside. Now, can Johnson get back on the inside? Yes. Dick read that pretty good. He had to try and keep Alan Jones, but Jones goes snip, 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 and a bit of tug. Johnson's got one wheel in the rough, and this dice continues.
Well, these BMW guys are trying hard here today. They're really fair dinkum here, and you'd almost think that Alan Jones and Tony were changing gears in unison. Jones is determined to let Dick Johnson know the track is his. They need to get in front of the Sierra to go after the leaders. They were held up for a reasonable length of time by Brocky's Mobil 1 Commodore.
And it's fair dinkum stuff too, because Jones was able to get through, as our viewers could see. In the meantime, Mark Scaife continues to lead, but that lead has been eroded by national champion Jimmy Richards in the second of the Winfield Nissan GTRs, and they've been able to get well and truly away from Glenn Seaton and the Peter Jackson Sierra. So those remarks that we made earlier about maybe the handicappers have got some work to do 48 hours after this race, I think that the two Nissan boys, quite a few of the media personnel have been claiming that the Nissans have been running doggo for about 3 races, and I think they've been swept up with wanting to beat each other. And here goes Scaife through on the inside, and Jimmy Richards taking the lead. So they've got caught up in their own race strategy, and all of a sudden it could be said they're blowing their cover to the rest of Australia.
These two maintaining a lead of 5.5 seconds over Seaton, and there is Neil Crompton in Mobil Commodore number 7 into the pits. Some sort of engine drama. It's a great disappointment for Neil. He went out this morning in the warm-up and was very happy with his race setup and was looking forward to the race. And now this has happened.
Well, that's the first of the Mobil Commodores in the pits. It seems to be going nowhere, doing a bit of work on that. We'll have an update from the pits there in a moment. In the meantime, Jimmy Richards, car number 1. These two cars have just run away from the Sierras. And keep in mind that they have an enormous record of winning races here at Winton, and particularly with the 4-wheel drive version. They just snap out of the turns, and we saw exactly what was going to set the benchmark for the day at the start, I believe, when both of them just took off and were able to run away.
But credit where credit is due, Michael. You have to prepare a car to win, and they don't win automatically. The drivers have to be able to have equipment underneath them, and Fred Gibson's team prepare two immaculate cars. They're there to be driven, and the two champions that are behind the wheels do that exceptionally well. We can't argue against that point. If some of the other teams were running as efficiently.
Here's a show for the crowd as Mark Scaife comes up on the inside of Jimmy Richards and takes back the lead, but Richards, of course, comes back again with the lie to the next one. Now, they're putting on a hell of a show. In the meantime, I think you will find that Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson car will somehow just make up about 4 seconds. There he is.
He's just taken 2 seconds off that 5.5 second gap.
So these two guys showboating, or obviously they're gearing for Scaife to win the championship. That's obvious. They've got about 5 laps to go as they come over the start finishing line. Tim Grant follows them. Let's go down and see what the problems are with Neil Crompton. Down to Andy Raven.
Thanks, Mike. And he was in such a battle there. Neil, what has gone wrong with the Commodore?
No idea really, AJ. Last lap round, all of a sudden the thing just had a giant misfire and sort of running on 5 or something like that, and the boys can't find the problem quickly and easily, so we have to put it away, but it's a little disappointing.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Problems for Colin Bond, the Caltech CXT Sierra. The car that's been running so well here the last couple of days, and certainly ran, I believe, in great shape at Simmons Plains, where it was able to come right through the field from the back. So it's not the best of days for Colin Bond. Well, look at this.
There, he's got enough.
He's on the wrong side, but
he might.
He is here, but he's got to try and hold it now to the inside.
John's awake up to him.
So they're having a great scrap, and Jonesy's there to pick up the scraps anyway as they come out of Champion Corner, down the back straight again, towards the S's.
Alan Jones actually having a tougher job than anybody there. He doesn't want to dare put a scratch on his teammate's car, and yet maintaining the momentum he has is extremely difficult in that position. But he's doing well. You look how he's slingshotting Tony, or shadowing Tony. But John Bow's a seasoned campaigner, and Tony Longhurst is going to have to use every trick in the book to nail a Shell Sierra before the checkered flag drops on this heat.
That's not going to be too hard, because they're actually, we believe, on the last lap now. John Bow and Tony Longhurst, the two Nissans, still continue to lead the two GTRs. Oh, Bow sideways getting into that corner. Final lap. And as they come, just look once again as Longhurst just launches up here on the outside. Can't do much about it. Time maybe will run out for Tony Longhurst, but expect them to be ultra competitive in Heat 2 a little later on. Meanwhile, our leaders are coming down to the final series of S's. This has been an outstanding performance as they come up to the line. Checkered flag ready, and it'll be Mark Scaife in the number 2 Winfield Nissan that gets across the line. Jimmy Richards in the number 1 Winfield Nissan runs in second spot. The Peter Jackson Sierra of Glenn Seaton takes third. Perkins will be fourth. Fifth will be Bow. Sixth will be Tony Longhurst. And seventh, Alan Jones. And let me tell you, that was a most entertaining touring car race. Let's check them out on the race score. Mark Scaife, your winner. The birthday boy in the Winfield Nissan. Richards runs in second spot. Glenn Seaton in third. Larry Perkins fourth. And John Bow rounds out the 5. Back here at Winton Motor Raceway, we have the cars out on the racetrack now prior to the start of the Tui's Gold Star Series for Formula Brabham. Let's have a look at today's grid. Mark Larkham in the metre 10, Reynard a 51.33 in qualifying. Second quick time, Mark Scaife in the Winfield Spa. For position number 339, Drew Price. Out of 4 and 5, it's Simon Kay. In the Rolt from 5, it's 10, John Briggs. And another Rolt. Starting out of position number 6, number 4, Ron Barnacle. From 7, 78, Brian Sampson. From 8 and 74, Chris Hocking. Out of position number 9, it's Alan Galloway in the Rolt. And rounding out the 10, John Herman. Also in another Rolt. We have a good-looking field here. And I guess you could say Mark Scaife has it all to do off the outside of the front row. Only about 5 or 6 seconds away from the start. Scaife has already one cribbing on the inside as they get off the line. Scaife tries to get across to the inside, but just can't do that as he gets down in the first corner and loses the start. But it's going to make for interesting racing as they go downhill to the next right-hander and out then make their way along towards the back straight. And a good start, Neil.
Unbelievable start from Mark Larkham.
dropped the clutch, grabbed the lead, and 2 corners into the race, he sprinted away. This car's working very well after a couple of disappointing runs in the first 2 rounds of the championship. Drew Price tucked in behind Simon Kane there, 2 of the Rolt cars, but 2 different models. So it's Larkham from Scaife, Simon Kane in 3rd, Drew Price in 4th position.
A hint perhaps that Larkham may have just edged, moved at the start.
He jumped, but then he stopped again, clearly stopped, and off he went. I don't think he actually leapt away early.
Should be an interesting technical battle here too, the ongoing battle between the carbon fibre cars and the aluminium tub cars. The Spa of Scaife is one of the older aluminium cars, and Larkham has certainly had his measure most of the weekend. He was a second up on him in qualifying, so Scaife really has a battle on his hands, the championship leader.
Well, followers of the TUI's Australian Drivers' Championship will have noted in the first couple of races that the Mitre 10 entry of Larkham has been just beset by all sorts of dramas. They got the car fairly late in proceedings, and it's been a big job to adapt it to our regulations, which we've mentioned before. Peter Boylan imported 2 of these cars, and Mark Larkham driving one of them, Steve Cramp the other. And this weekend, finally, some of all this hard work has paid off. And this is the beauty of these little cars. They're just so quick. They perform so sweetly. And Mark Scaife, as I've mentioned, is bringing a Lola out, a car of equal technology to this Reynard. It arrives in the next couple of weeks, and we know there's more to come.
Mark Larkham at the moment with 15 championship points in the TUI's Australian Drivers' title. Scaife leading it on 32 from Drew Price on 20, and John Briggs also on 20. Then Hocking, Searle and Larkham. So not much between them. But it's early days yet in the championship, and good to see TUI supportive of the Gold Star Championship in season 92.
Mark Larkham has opened up a lead of 1.6 seconds in these early laps over Mark Scaife. Very effective. Mark Larkham, a former Australian Driver to Europe Series winner in Formula Ford, 1989 that was. He was 3rd in the Australian Drivers' Championship last year, and now with a competitive car to run, he's certainly showing that great speed he showed in Formula Ford a few years ago.
It was a very quick time he did in qualifying yesterday. It just blew everybody out of the water, and 51.6 round here in any motor car is very, very fast. This is Simon Kane, Australian driving champion of 1990. Behind him, Drew Price, who was the winner at Sandown in the Rolt RT20. Ooh, Kane's car misbehaving under brakes at the end of the pit straight.
You'd have an intimate knowledge of this car, Neil. I believe you drove it in the Australian Grand Prix support race last year.
That's right. Simon wasn't able to attend that race meeting, and we put together a package with his father, Clive, and ran the car down there, and it's a very sweet little car to drive. RT21. It was originally run in Formula 3000 in the International Championship by the Pavesi team, I believe, in Italy.
Fabulous little cars these. They're over, I think, almost 10 seconds faster than the Group A cars around here. John Briggs.
Looks like he's got temperature problems with that car. It's very warm out there. This is the Tag Heuer entry. Car owned by Dave Moore of Sydney. John Briggs, the driver.
Some great action in the open wheelers. Hope you're enjoying 7's same-day coverage of the motor racing from Winton, brought to you by Shell. Go well, go Shell, and by Synovus Vitamins.
Now, how's Drew's power down with the RT20? Comes off the corner about the same speed as Simon Kane. Kane a little quicker at the end of the straight, I'd say. Price closes up fractionally under brakes, and this is where he just doesn't seem to be able to quite get in touch with car number 5.
5 laps to go in this contest.
They're not going to catch Mark Larkham. He's opened it up to about 20 car lengths and continues to disappear into the distance in the Mitre 10 entry.
Well, he's 4.5 seconds ahead of Scaife, and he's been maintaining that gap for the last few laps.
And driving very well.
Meanwhile, Simon Kane under a lot of pressure from Drew Price. Both quite experienced campaigners now, particularly in this class. And there is our leader, the Mitre 10 Reynard 90D.
You watch that thing, even on that shot there, you notice it's as though it's painted to the road. It just goes round corners. Whoop, car number 74 isn't painted to the road.
Chris Hocking. He's buried it in the kitty litter.
Looked like he had some failure in the front left suspension there.
Hocking 911, a locally developed car. Chris not having much luck today. 4 laps to go. Simon Kane still holds 3rd position, ahead of Drew Price. Yes. Chris tries to...
That's what it was, Chris. Something let go in there. So this is the only question mark remaining in this race, whether or not Drew Price can pass Simon Kane. I think that it's going to be a pretty tall order, but Drew will have a go.
Simon seems to have opened up a... Oh no, it's pretty.
Well, yeah,
pretty
you'd
static
say
sort of game. You'd think so.
Depends on where you look. If you look in the first half of the circuit, you'd say that Simon's got it under control. But up in this section, the little R220 doing the job very nicely.
So no matter what he tries to do, it's more than countered by the fact that the track is just so flat and so narrow. And when they get onto the back straight there and the exit, it's all over again. So it's been a rather difficult chase for him.
Alan Galloway in trouble in car number 7.
It's fired. Let's have a look what happened. Coming down at the end of the straight, and he's just lost it going in there. Brings the front end around and manages to stall it on the blacktop.
It's just painted to the road, this thing. I can't believe how well they got it working. It just, we're not seeing it step out of shape at all. He's just able to drive the car hard and it does its job. Very, very convincing performance from Mark Larkham. Mark Scaife protecting his championship lead though in second place, and that's critical.
Here's the checkered flag now for Mark Larkham in the Mitre 10 entry, and he goes beneath the checker. And is he delighted here today? Mark Scaife is going to pick up the second spot, and I think Simon Kane will take the third. Drew Price the fourth as they finish off. Well, our race leader certainly had no competition. Started off pole, Mark Larkham. Let's check them out on the race score, and that will confirm for you our Tooheys Gold Star Championship. Mark Larkham is your winner today. Mark Scaife in second. Simon Kane finishes third. Great fourth there from Drew Price, and Ron Barnacle rounds out the 5. Back here at Winton Motor Raceway, we're preparing for round 3 of the Motorcraft Formula 4 Driver to Europe series. Let's take a look at the lineup. Michael Dutton in the Swift starts out of pole with John Blanchard alongside of him. Out of 3, it's Cameron McConville in the Van Diemen. From 4, Adrian Mastronado. From position number 5, it's Stephen White in the Clipsal Swift. Out of position 6, Stephen Richards in the Van Diemen. From 7, it's Craig Lowndes in the Van Diemen. From 8, Ron Searle. From position number 9, it's Darren Edwards. And rounding out the 10 is Steve Ellery in the Van Diemen. But it is a very, very big field here at Winton Motor Raceway, well known for its support of Formula Ford racing. There's Searle off and racing, and actually Blanchard got the start and moves very quickly over to the inside. Good tactics, those. They all launch into the right-hander and downhill, and one upside down. There he goes.
Gee, that was a big shunt. Car number 72 it might have been. It was a 70-something, but
70.
He locked wheels at the end of the pit straight, and the car just end for ended off into the, well, didn't even make the kitty litter.
Yep, they rubbed wheels there, and he's ripped all the, or just about all the corners off the car.
Red flag.
Have a look at that again. Now you'll see one of them right up. There he goes, and he's gone right over. That shows the effectiveness of the roll bar in these cars. But that was a big shunt.
I think it was car 70, which is Cameron Partington. And I believe that there's every chance they'll red flag this.
Yes, I would think so. Well, the officials were very, very quickly on the scene.
And they're going to go a double yellow flag, which means the cars are going to slow down.
I hope so.
And not necessarily stop. Well, they're going at a fair crack here.
They certainly are as they come across the start-finishing line, just to be greeted with the ambulance coming onto the circuit.
Well, it looks like the race is continuing at full race pace by the look of it.
Well, there's double yellows out at the end of the pit straight, so if the driver's doing their job, they'll respect that. I just hope nobody arrives down there with too much adrenaline pumping. So Blanchard's the leader, and Michael Dutton's into second place. There's those double yellows that I spoke of, which signifies to the drivers that there's a very dangerous situation confronting them, and you can see that our hard-working marshals and officials are right on the spot, and
there's the young driver about to
he's okay.
Step out. He took quite an end-for-ender there.
It really does show the effectiveness of the roll bar systems in these cars. They're built incredibly strong. And,
well, that's a pleasing sight, isn't
it?
Yeah.
Very good to see. Anyway, John Blanchard leads them round for the second lap. Michael Dutton in second place, the guy who ran so strongly at Symonds Plains. Cameron McConville, a local boy who's very quick round here. Former production car racer Adrian Mastronado in fourth place, and the older Swift, and I think Stephen White in fifth place.
6th, 7th and 8th, here's the battle.
Stephen Richards at the helm of that battle. Ron Searle in behind him in car number 7.
And there's Craig Lowndes again, menacing them all in this old RF85. A car that's, what, 7 years old now, and still proving quite an effective weapon, even if it's not totally competitive with the latest model cars at the front of the field. He's only got a certain amount of money to go motor racing, and he's doing the best he can with what he's got. It's a good show. He was very strong in the rain at Amaroo Park.
I tell you, Jimmy Richards must be really proud of his son Stephen. I think he's coming on a treat. He looks sharper at every outing, and obviously he's got the right sort of stuff.
He and his dad have been working pretty hard on the car.
Well, we're watching Motorcraft Formula Ford. Well, there's a lot more motorsport, of course, to come over the next few weeks. Don't forget, next weekend, the big bike show of the year, the Foster's 500 Australian Grand Prix at Eastern Creek. What a show that should be. Following weekend, the James Hardy 12-hour at Mount Panorama on Sunday, April 19. And of course, our next motorsport telecast will be the NASCAR and Oscar National Championship finals from Calder Park Thunderdome on Sunday, April 26. Just bringing you right up to date with what's happening in motorsport over the next few weekends as round 3 of the Motorcraft Formula 4 Driver to Europe Series continues. There's our race leader, John Blanchard. Right behind him is Michael Dutton and Cameron McConville running in third. This is good stuff.
Locks up a break, Stephen White.
Stephen's been trying to protect this spot since it started. But it still continues. It's raging, actually, as they head up to Penrite Corner again.
Two guys coming from completely different schools of racing. Mastronado, as I said before, a former Falcon racer in Australian production car racing. And Stephen White, another guy to come up from the go-kart ranks. And the Clipsal Swift.
It's really stuck to him at the moment. Adrian's done a good job adapting to the open wheeler, a very different discipline from his production car activity. He settled into this job very effectively. Blanchard, meanwhile, leads from Dutton. McConville still in third place. These guys just about half the pit straight length behind, about 7 seconds, and another car's off, car number 25, and bodywork all askew at the front of the car. It's certainly, I mean, so many cars out there, it's staggering.
That's Jared Mannion. There he comes. He's got bits and pieces still being picked up around the course. That was... let's have a look at this and see what happened. Oh, he's had a touch over here and he's gone off, lost the front of the car, the bodywork, which is sitting out there on the racetrack, so it's dislodged itself. 3 laps to go as they come across the line.
Now Stephen White, the man here in the white Swift.
In the wide Swift.
Wide Swift. He's certainly getting desperate. He's the guy who leads the title at the moment, sharing first place with Cameron McConville. So any sort of positions he can pick up here, he's going to be able to defend his title lead. Gee, he's close, sticking the nose box right under the gearbox of Mastronado Swift.
Here comes a brave move. And, I was going to say, but he has to have it all on the floor here.
Oh, gee, he was out there in that territory we were talking about before where it's very slippery.
So Mastronado's throwing it around with carefree abandon, and White is all over him like a wet blanket at the stage, but can't do anything about it.
So Cameron McConville in third place on the track at the moment, 24 rejoins.
It's Cameron Prince.
Cameron McConville is in third position on the track at the moment, and Stephen White here is in fifth. So this is really the battle for the championship. McConville stays in third place.
Yeah, they've got 2 laps to go. They've already gone across the line.
Moving to the lead in the championship.
Here's 4th and 5th, Mastronado and Stephen White.
Terrific tussle this. Let's see what Stephen White can do this time. Whoa!
Gee,
he almost spun it on the...
Stephen is losing ground by doing all of that.
He was actually in the grass then.
Mark Scaife's got an absolute lie on that.
Got the car all crossed up. This is desperate stuff. He must be very frustrated. He's really losing his cool now.
Yes, you don't need to skip a wheel in one of these. We've already seen.
Big chance up the inside if he's tidy here. No, Mastronado's covered him.
You can see Mastronado taking the inside line under brakes. He's doing quite an effective defensive driving job here. There is nothing Stephen White can do about it unless Adrian makes a mistake.
Well, they'll get the last lap board next time around. They come out of champion corner and work the back straight.
This will be interesting.
Stephen doesn't make too much up down here, and he saves his best move for the end of the front straight, the right-hander. Now you watch him get all agitated and excited now. They come through here, and from here to the next corner, it's all on all the way. Across to the inside, give it the Victor treatment, Swift to the outside, then try and duck back in behind. But all the time, Mastronado just covers the inside line. That's all he has to do.
Look how close he is out of this course.
That's good racing. I just wish we saw the top 12 cars as close as this.
Tremendous scrap from these guys. This is the battle for 4th and 5th, as we said. Front 3 have gone. Mastronado's worked hard to hang on to this 4th place, and I don't see him giving it in too easily. Oh, there we are.
32 across the rough. TJ Wood. Come down the back straight now. The final time.
John Blanchard, Michael Dutton and Cameron McConville, the way they started.
And that's the way they're going to finish, Mark, too. Checkered flag time. John Blanchard, the Palm Air conditioning machine, comes across the line. He'll take the checkered flag. Michael Dutton picks up the second. Again, Cameron McConville, a splendid 3rd spot there. And here is 4th, about to be resolved, with Adrian Mastronado coming out of the turn. Stephen White behind him. So Mastronado will get the 4th. White will get the 5th. Nothing in that, right on the finishing line. And there's our race winner, John Blanchard. The Palm Air entry. A superb drive. Started on the front row alongside Michael Dutton. And as the Shell race score shows, he came up with the goods. Blanchard, your race winner. Michael Dutton in 2nd. Cameron Conville finishes in 3rd. Mastronado 4th. Stephen White rounds out the 5. Back at Winton in just a moment. And welcome back to Winton Motor Raceway as we in the commentary box prepare for heat number 2, round 4. You thought it was tough at home. And here are the cars warming up the tyres now, not putting too much heat into them. We'll check the grid out for you, courtesy of Shell. And Mark Scaife, of course, starts out of pole position, a 101.00. Jimmy Richards, who of course went so well in heat number 1, shares the front row for heat number 2. Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Sierra, starts on the inside of the second line. Alongside of him will be Larry Perkins in the Castrol Commodore. From 5 and 18, it's John Bowe, the first of the Shell Sierras. From position number 625, Tony Longhurst. Keep an eye on Tony. From 720, Alan Jones. He's B&8 sidekick. From 8 at 17, Dick Johnson in the Shell Sierra. From 9, 23, Paul Morris, getting stronger at every outing. And from 10, number 5, Peter Brock in the Mobil 1 Commodore. We've seen the performance so far today of the Winfield Nissans. There they are on the front line. Mark Scaife in the number 2 car. And of course Jim Richards alongside of him. And row number 2 is Glenn Seaton in the Peter Jackson Sierra and Larry Perkins, who desperately needs a good start. 10 seconds away from the start. Heat number 2, round 4 from Winton Motor Raceway.
Come on.
Racing, getting off the line first of all was Jimmy Richards, but I tell you what, it's everyone and his dog. They're 4 wide, dropping into the right-hander. That is the longest 10 seconds I can recall for ages. The 2 Winfield Nissans.
One of the Shell cars spun on the opening corner there. Brock's involved as well. There's Wayne Park. I saw one, that was Johnson. I saw one of the Shell cars spin in the middle of the pack there.
Whoa, Dickie catches it
spins
360 and floors it. Now that'll put some heat into the tyres. That was not the start that Dick Johnson needed. We'll have a look at that on replay later as we take them coming up into the top end. John Bowe drops into the 3rd spot. Glenn Seaton is 4th. Larry Perkins is 5th. And then Tony Longhurst is 6th. That's the order as they rush up through Tui's turn, now through Champion, and they come down the back straight. The 2 Nissans out very, very comfortably at this stage.
It's going to be interesting to watch the progress of the BMWs in this race too, Michael. They're already looking outside Larry Perkins there. Larry did a very consistent run. The car's obviously well balanced in the first heat, but the BMW's tyre wear will probably just give them the edge in this second race.
Coming up across the strike, the complete of the first lap. Jim Richards is your race leader as we pick up through the replay here as John Bowe gets down in there. Here comes Johnson. Nothing untoward there, so something has happened on the inside of Johnson. Wayne Park goes the outside. Brock gets caught up on the way through, and I think it may have even been Paul Morris on the inside. And that's how Dickie wound up facing the wrong way.
Johnson into the pits now. Get some new tyres on there. They'd be nice and flat spotted.
Yes, they're not going to do much with that. So Johnson pays the penalty through someone getting into the inside of him, I believe, probably in the first turn.
Yeah, I think he would have been touched to go that hard on the opening lap. That's not Dick's style. A terrible start for the turbo cars. They were all sitting there screaming their heads off, waiting for the green light, and the rev limiters were going off, and they lost their boost, and nobody got a good start with the turbo other than the lead cars.
Well, here comes Johnson just as the field comes down at the S's with the 2 Winfield Nissans, we take the race cam with Dick Johnson. He's back and racing again, so it's Richards leading from Scaife, John Bowe, followed by Glenn Seaton, Larry Perkins.
Scaife just took Richards for first place. Snuck down the inside of the corner there. John Bowe on the Shell Sierra, showing great consistency in the Shell cars. As I said, with these new Dunlop tyres, they're doing a lot of work, getting good consistency out of them around Winton. Then there's Seaton. So it's the two Nissans and the Sierra Brigade, as we saw in the first heat. Larry Perkins in 5th place.
Larry will need a few laps to get his tyres up to temperature, and I think it would have been fairly critical for either Alan Jones as Brock comes in for a pit stop, 0.5. He was also mixed up with that, may have had a deflating right side front tyre. It's unfortunate that all happens in the first turn, but to be perfectly honest, with 20 odd cars trying to squeeze into what must be one of the tightest first corners in Australian motorsport, something had to give. Okay, they come through for the completion of another lap. Perkins in there, and then Alan Jones. Well, Dick Johnson is back as changed rubber.
Yeah, mate, I can hear you, Mike.
Can you? What actually happened? Looked like you got nobbled from the inside.
Well, I think Brocky's obviously losing his touch a bit. He sort of just T-boned me in the door, but that's part and parcel of what we're here for, I suppose.
Yeah, but no one wants to go out in the first turn. You put a lot of effort into it. I was going to say it's a pretty tight first turn anyway.
It's very tight first corner, and there's actually a lot of incidents happen there, but there's not very far between there and the start, so they're the sort of things that happen every now and then.
All right, we might come back to you and get you to talk us around a little later in the race.
Love to.
Thanks, mate. Dick Johnson continues on. He says that Brocky got a little excited and drilled him in the door in the first turn.
Now, the interesting thing about the BMWs here is that Alan Jones is in front of his teammate Tony Longhurst. That's a real change. Tony's normally leading AJ in these battles.
Well, AJ was going great guns in the first heat. He really is in touch with his Winton circuit, and I'm not surprised to see him just take advantage of that opening lap and consolidate himself now. But Perkins holding 4th, 5th spot spill, quite close to Seaton, nothing in it. Seaton to the Pride of Tasmania, John Bowe, and they're all chasing these two Winfield GTRs.
Yes, and they're not at this stage getting away as they did in the first heat. Let's wait and see whether or not Bowe closes up. There's Glenn Seaton and Larry Perkins right behind him, and Jones will be working away very quickly at Larry Perkins. Got off to a brilliant start and has been hounding them off the start line.
This car of Larry's is no spring chicken either. This is the car he ran at Bathurst in 1990. Leased it out to Graham Moore and Michelle Delcourt at Bathurst last year. So it's done some miles as Jim Richards has looked down the inside. Thanks very much. Mark Scaife goes back to 2nd place. So the Nissans are playing with 1st and 2nd out front.
Well, that's the word, playing with it. They're just setting the pace, which they can do. So it's their prerogative. Nobody's on their back bumper bar yet, but if they want to just nurse their way through to a nice, comfortable 1-2 here for their team, this is all they have to do. No one's going to get by a freight train like the likes of these two Winfield cars.
Probably most of the sparks at Winton flew at the press conference following qualifying yesterday. Larry Perkins opening up in the biggest tirade about a non-appearance by Holden Racing Team. I alluded that some weeks ago. They're only running selected rounds this year. John Crennan of Holden Racing Team was pointing out to me at the recent Dunlop Media Awards that 65% of their budget for 1992 is going to Tom Walkingshaw for the development of the VP car for next year.
Yes, Mike, but next year is next year, and I thought the Pentagon operates in this year, we spend this year's money, and next year we spend next year's money. So I'm not really buying that. They represent the factory. Holden, the fans around the country have relied on the Holden involvement. They've gone to all the trouble of producing the Group A cars over the last 5 or 6 years, and then all of a sudden life's too hard for them. I haven't got a lot of sympathy for the situation.
No, well, I just point that out. John has pointed out also that he's under a lot of pressure from a lot of Holden dealers around Australia who also want to know, but that's the factory line that 65% of their budget for 92 has gone to the development of what they believe will be a winning car next year. Let's just wait and see. Perkins at this stage has actually got closer to Glenn Seaton in the number 30 car, and Alan Jones is just having a little tappity-do right on the back bumper, and Tony Longhurst is right behind him.
Well, Longhurst has disposed of Mark Gibbs in the GIO car, who's holding up for a few laps now that BMW trains behind Perkins.
Well, there's a dent on the back of Glenn's car. Looks like Larry's had a little nudge there. Awfully hard to pull up 1,300 kilos in a hurry, but he's pressing it for all he can. You can see a little lock up at the end of the main straight there. I don't think Larry's got the balance on his brakes absolutely perfect, but certainly good enough for him to be able to maintain this spot. But I think my eyes tell me that all of these cars are holding the BMWs up at the moment.
Yeah, it seems to be, doesn't it? I notice Seaton with the lights on a fair amount, so I guess he's doing a bit of left foot braking as well.
Well, that's to keep the turbocharger up, Mike. He can press the brake and the engine at the same time and really give himself a slingshot effect. It's a tricky little maneuver in between gear changes as well, but he's adapted this style of driving and making it work well for him.
2.5 seconds the lead from the Nissans over John Bowe in third place. John enjoying one of his most consistent seasons for a long time. Last year was just awful for the Shell team. This year John has qualified in the top 6, the only driver to qualify in the top 6 at all the rounds so far, and absolutely dominated Sandown with 2 terrific wins there. And he's certainly enjoying himself here, the most competitive Sierra on the track at the moment. But I'll be interested to see how Glenn Seaton wears him down, because it's a real tyre war here. The Shell cars on Dunlops and Seaton, of course, on Bridgestones. And the 62 compound tyre has proved to be a pretty useful thing to have around this track.
You know, Glenn Seaton said yesterday that he would be happy with the consistency of his tyre in the second heat, and I think this is bearing fruit here. He's certainly shadowing John Bowe. There's only half a car length in it. But I would reckon that John Bowe is setting the pace here for the rest of the field and nursing his car. Just, I think he's written off the fact that 1-2 is in front of him. That's a lost cause and gone out the window. And he'd just like to keep the rest of this pack where they are and driving quite consistently.
Whoa!
Larry gets it
Lightning Larry
sideways.
opens up the bags.
Yeah.
Two
Rear tire's gone off.
BMWs.
That's all that was. The car leaning into that corner. Not a very fast corner, but the full lateral force of the weight of the car. And
Big dust cloud. Can't see who that is. Not sure
Well,
if
someone will
anyone's-
appear there shortly. Someone's gone out of the dust cloud anyway. And I have a feeling it was Wayne Park. Yes, in fact it was. So the two Nissans, Mark Scaife, car number 2, and of course Jimmy Richards, a national champion, run 1-2 in this one. They're doing it fairly comfortably. They would disagree. John Bowe in third spot, followed by Glenn Seaton. Then, of course, we've got the two Bimmers, followed by Larry Perkins, who started bushfire alert up in the top end there, about half a lap back. Now, whether the two BMWs can force the issue with Glenn Seaton and John Bowe, we'll have to wait and see. Larry's dropped back. He has probably lost about 5 or 6 car lengths, plus a couple of rungs on the ladder as well.
I'd say that beyond, for sure, the aggressiveness of the two yellow cars, certainly there, just the slightest mistake, Glenn slipped off the pace, Larry's nailed him. So this is one thing you can say about the Winton course. It might be a little bit on the Mickey Mouse twisty side, but by the same token, make the slightest mistake and you're out of the race.
The BMWs are doing everything right here. They're just picking these guys off as they make mistakes. First Larry, then Seaton. Now they're coming up behind John Bowe. Alan Jones still ahead of his teammate. Terrific performance from AJ.
Well, I don't think there's any team orders there. I think you just go for it. I mean, they're not playing a major role in the championship. And if Jonesy's having a good run, good on AJ. I'll tell you what, he'll wring the neck out of the BMW, and so will Tony.
I think they're both wringing the necks out of what happened to them up at Surfers Paradise a week or so ago, and just anxious to get back to real racing and doing it properly for not only their sponsors but for themselves.
Well, they're enjoying it here today. There's the gap from John Bowe. Then there's AJ, followed by Longhurst. Perkins is the next one, followed by Glenn Seaton. Then Paul Morris in the third of the BMWs, and he's got Mark Gibbs right behind him. Morris is a quiet achiever. We've seen him, of course, in Formula Ford last year. Frank Gardner, Tony Longhurst gave him a run for the season in the 23 car. It's turned out in the white colours. The BMW Advanced Driving School, and Paul's doing a good job, and they're very supportive. 3 cars for the championship.
The gap from Mark Scaife back to John Bowe is 3.15 seconds, so the gap just opening a little.
There you go, the leaders. Let's check them out for you on the Shell race score. Mark Scaife is your race leader over Jimmy Richards. John Bowe in third spot. 4th is Alan Jones, and 5th is Tony Longhurst, and we'll be back at Winton in just a tick. Back here at Winton Motor Raceway, it's on for young and old as John Bowe tries to consolidate that third spot, but I tell you what, Alan Jones is all over him. Jones comes up into champion corner now. The two Nissans get away from this group, but Bowe gets the power down. He's able to out-drag Jones down the back straight, but from this point on, under brakes, Jones makes up an awful amount of ground.
That's Mike, and every lap is a death knell lap for the Sierra. They are hard on their tires around here, and every lap for the BMW is just another lap. Their Yokohama tires absolutely tailor-made to these cars. There's a lot of race development done in Europe. These are the same cars that are run by the factory in Europe. Perhaps not quite the same engine standard, but certainly all the little niceties that go under every BMW chassis are on these cars. Big 18-inch wheels, and as I mentioned, exclusively contracted to Yokohama, and boy, these guys have got these cars dialed in.
I'll tell you what, there's no love lost either between John Bowe and Alan Jones. They've had a couple of coming-togethers over the last season or so. I don't think they sent each other Christmas cards, but look at Jonesy straight down on the inside. He'll make JB work from now until the end of the race, and he'll get past him.
Well, it's interesting, in qualifying, the Nissans were about half a second faster than they were 12 months ago. I've just had the stopwatch on Leader Richards. He's about 0.4 of a second slower than the lap record last year.
Yeah, it's funny about that, mate, isn't it?
We're becoming cynical, boys.
No, we're not cynical, Michael. It's just people that can calculate, don't even have to be able to count to 10. 5 will do. Could come up with a better equation than we've got here at the moment.
Okay, Jimmy Richards, we take Nissan Race Cam. He rides behind team partner Mark Scaife as they go up into the left-hander. Now just listen to the engine revs, and that'll tell you how hard they're working.
Well, I think my idol on my old Vespa scooter used to run a little higher than that. It's awfully hard with a team that's in front. They always make it look easy. They run so professionally. They do everything right. And on a course like this, anybody that makes the slightest mistake is looking bad, as we've seen the rest of the field fold up here in the second heat. But motor racing is terribly unfair in lots of ways, and this is one of those occasions when you have to say we got it all wrong.
Mark Scaife to John Bowe is now 4.07 seconds, so the lead slowly opening up by a few tenths each lap.
Well, Glenn Seaton's coming back through the pack. He's been able to just pass Larry Perkins and go back after them again. He spotted them quite an amount of ground. It's probably a couple of 100 metres. But he may even drop onto the back of this queue because Jonesy can't do anything with John Bowe. If the track was maybe 4 or 5 feet wider, he might be able to, but JB's got just about everything covered at this stage. But as Alan said earlier, he is holding up the Bimmers.
Just one slight fade, just one little bit of oversteer, and Alan Jones will be halfway up John Bowe's door. Tony's probably aggravating Jonesy a little bit at the moment, but he won't be looking out the back there. He's going to have a little go. That's exactly what he'll want to do. He wants to get alongside that shell sign before they get onto the straight. This is the problem. The power of the Sierra can squirt ahead on the straights. The BMWs, if they were lighter, of course, would accelerate much faster down that straight.
That's the Jones of old. The guy built his reputation on being a very aggressive charger.
Well, I'll tell you what, he coming out of the champion turn, he did tap on the tail of JB just to let him know he's there. He didn't hammer him past the point of no return, but he just, on a couple of laps, has just given him a tap.
Well, I was lucky enough to see Alan Jones win his World Championship at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas.
Whoa.
And boy,
Jonesy,
wow.
There's a lap car.
I can drive with one hand.
That's
Brian
young
Sala.
Sala.
No, it is. I was just going to say that, Alan, it's great to see Alan Jones racing in anger. It's over a 12-year period, like his 1980 world champion. That's diluted somewhat as the years pass, but remember to those days what a great sight it was and what a great ambassador for Formula One and Australian motor racing Jones was. Hang on.
He's run into a problem.
Yeah.
He's given Tony a go at it because...
it did look like he pulled sideways there.
Well, he lost a bit of momentum with Sala. He was hot right on the tail of JB.
Yeah, well, they're keen on championship points. They definitely want to nail a finish here. If they can get rid of this Shell Sierra, then they're on the podium. And that would be a tremendous credit to the team. Glenn Seaton still holding steam over Larry Perkins. I think Larry's doing a tremendous job with hard tires, as he's indicated. Not the absolute best that he could he would like to see on his car.
Nissan's extending their lead, 5.9 seconds, so the lead growing all the time. And
I was going to say, I still believe the best is yet to come with Tony Longhurst when he gets on the tail here of John Bower. Because what is in fact going to happen, we're going to have...
well, he's more than on the tail.
Now he's going to worry him here.
Right up alongside Bower as they come through this twisty section. This is BMW country. The Sierra with about 550 horsepower and 10-inch rear tyres. John trying to gingerly feed the power in by this BMW. He's just all over him. Tony Longhurst feeling right at home in this fabulous little car. Excellent under brakes. Excellent through the twisty stuff. 8 laps to go.
I don't think he can hold off 8 laps. I honestly don't. When Longhurst decides to get a job done.
Jimmy Richards going through there on the inside to take the lead back from Mark Scaife. They're starting to sprint a bit harder now. They're having a little race going between themselves. JB and Tony Longhurst are really into it.
The real battle
here.
Yep, that's going to be the battle.
There's the 2 Nissans. There goes the Sizzler entry, young Grant. And look
Here
at Bower. Now, Longhurst will do the giant killer here. He'll go straight to the outside. Now duck straight back and try and get him on the exit. But he's got Jones covering there, playing rear gunner. Glenn Seaton's in, wants a slice of the action, and Perkins will be with them shortly.
Well, look at Bower getting sideways as he comes through the corners.
Almost touching.
Those tyres would be pretty well nearly used by
John Bow's working harder than the other 2 put together. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. He's doing a very good job, but he's got the limitations. The tyres have always been the Achilles heel on a Sierra, and around this circuit, just to have lasted this long, he's a credit to himself and his team.
Well, the funny thing is the Sierra boys, or I know John Bower particularly, was saying the rev limiter has in fact helped the Sierras because they've had to gear the cars taller, and that's helped their rear tyres and reduced the explosive acceleration they have out of corners. So in a way, the rev limiter has helped some of these cars.
7 laps to go. This is a real race here, looking for 3rd spot.
Jones all over Longhurst too.
Well, Jonesy's back. He's got momentum. He can see the same problem as beset Tony Longhurst.
And in all this battle, Glenn Seaton has clawed his way back onto this threesome. So we've got a Sierra sandwich for the 2 BMWs.
Look at this. He just fired off that turn. Got it right. Now he's caught to the outside. JB won't give him any racing room. Watch Jones up on the inside again.
Well, there's plenty of time between now and the next round at Lakeside in Queensland at the first week in May. So a couple of panels that might get scraped here over the next lap or 2 isn't really going to bother anybody.
Here's our race cam on top of Glenn Seaton's Peter Jackson Sierra, just showing you the dice up front. There's Alan Jones just ahead of him, obviously Tony Longhurst and John Bower.
6 laps to go as the lead Nissans cross the line.
They all juggle for positions.
Fabulous scrap this.
They can't quite do it. John Bower is hanging on very admirably. I have to give him full marks here. He's keeping the car in control, not too much sideways. If he gets it sideways, he's doomed. That's all it'll take. If he's going sideways, that BMW will be going straight ahead.
Now they're caught up behind Tim Grant. Grant pulls to the outside. Good thinking there from the young driver. Cool head, where he's got all the leaders all over the top of him, and Glenn Seaton trying to come around the outside as well. Now Tony moves up, maybe ruffles a bit of paint. That was fairly close. Couldn't tell whether there was actually just a mild touch of contact there.
He's doing everything he can to get in that slipstream, but he's really got to be. He's waving. You keep your hand on the steering wheel, Tony.
I think he took both hands off the wheel in exasperation there. What am I supposed to do? 5 laps to go as the leaders cross the line. Time's running out for the BMW duo. If John Bower can hold this position, he'll deserve a drink at the end of this. This will be hard work, Alan.
No, it would be extremely draining, and conscious of not trying to be a completely unsporting.
There he goes. There goes Bower around sideways.
Unfortunately for Tony, on the wrong side of the road.
Here comes AJ back up on the inside, but he'll probably give the running to Longhurst. You're right, Alan. If it was the other side, it'd been on for Young and Old there.
Yeah, you got it. He would have made it. A couple more like that, and he
there's Colin Bolt, who's had a little tap.
Meanwhile, the lead Nissans have also slowed down their pace. They just got them at a 1:03.9.
It's getting near the business end of the day. Actually, you look back to the championship as we just look at Bondi coming through. Only a bit of damage there on the rear. And with the weight penalty that was imposed on the BMWs early in the season, I think most people thought that Cams did get that wrong, but that was a little unfair, seeing that they were going to have twin heats. The BMW strength, obviously, in the 50-minute races. was about the last 20 laps. So they actually, by having 2 heats, penalised the BMWs. If they lose the extra 20 kilos, it's hard to say what they would have been doing here today at Winton, whether they'd been up with the Nissans or not.
I don't know that they'd be up with the Nissans, but they'd certainly have slingshotted themselves into the top 6, got a better run into the 2 heats, and wouldn't be struggling the way they are at the moment. But every race is another day, and they're certainly acquitting themselves well here, running well. They're not parked in the pits with engine problems or suspension problems. They're out there driving and giving Benson and Hedges a good run.
Once again, it's Tony Longhurst up on the tail here of John Bowe.
Has to be touching.
Yeah, just giving him a hand into the turn, but Bowie was on the brakes very, very quickly. Here come the Nissans with Jimmy Richards, Mark Scaife. They've eased the pace off, obviously, to have a good finish and not to be too far ahead of the pack. It's a little different, the order in this race, to the previous heat that we saw earlier today.
Great dice.
They had a huge gap over the rest of the field.
3 laps to go. John Bowe is hanging on. And if he's come this far, Alan, I guess there's a good chance he's going to do it.
He could actually pull it off. I think this is a sterling job. He's really doing well. And you have to compliment the fellows behind that are aggravating such an aggressive attack in such a sporting manner. They're not touching. We've seen them. Couldn't get any closer than that.
Just look at this. The acceleration out of this turn is sensational. But obviously, JB uses the line, which is across to the right for the next turn. That's not to say that Tony doesn't keep in on the paint and just keep worrying him all the time, then gets the half a slingshot but got the car sideways on the exit, gets a finger out the window. So Tony knows he's rattling him.
Well, we're one bonnet down already. I can see 3 dents in the front of that BMW. That's 1 bonnet for Monday morning repairs.
I think Ronnie Meacham wouldn't mind paying for those. They've got 2 laps to go, and here's Longhurst perfectly positioned, but they came up on a slower car, and that was the end of that one. Now, Glenn Seaton is back in it. He wants a slice of championship points, but the chances of Glenn being able to hose off the 3 in front of him are negligible, because Bowe gets away just a touch here from Tony Longhurst.
Well, the further Glenn slips down the field, the further he gets away from the Nissans in the points chase. He's 3rd in the championship at the moment, so if the Nissans get 1st and 2nd and he gets 6th, that's really going to damage his championship hopes.
Well, that's what it's looking as Glenn goes up and takes Alan Jones out.
Yes, definitely.
And all's fair in love and war. I guess Jonesy won't beef too much about it, but he really dived in, and that's what you really call being hung out to dry.
Meanwhile, Mark Scaife's back in 1st position, Jim Richards in 2nd. And 2 wins from 2 starts.
You started all of this, Alan, with your form finish.
Yes, thank you very much. The only trouble, Michael, I'm having trouble remembering how long ago that was.
Well, they take the 1 lap signal. So 1 to go for Mark Scaife, leading from Jimmy Richards. 3rd still to be resolved, John Bowe. Tony Longhurst.
I was going to say, Michael, that BMW is getting more and more dented every time they come round here. Look at the bonnet.
Well, he's put a great show on for the fans here. There's Bowe, he's got it.
He's done it.
He said, that's enough, I've had it.
Hang on, John.
Bowe off into the kiddie litter.
Did well to save it. Well, not to hit a fence. That was a little unfortunate, I think.
He will not be a happy boy.
Lost his battle with his frustration, and
if it rains, he's okay. The wipers are on. Final lap, and it's Mark Scaife in car number 2, the Winfield Nissan. Jimmy Richards closing it up for a form finish. Obviously, it's been set for Mark Scaife to win the championship this year. They come down the back straight. That's going to put Longhurst up into 3rd spot. I think Glenn Seaton probably to 4th, and Alan Jones maybe 5th. That looks like the order as they come to the S's for the final time. We've got an Australian Touring Car Championship by Shell that's well and truly alive. Round 4 at Winton, the Nissans for Winfield Strike across the line. It's Mark Scaife to win it from gentleman Jim Richards. The giant-killing performance from Tony Longhurst takes 3rd. Glenn Seaton picks up a 4th. Jonesy takes 5th. Perkins takes 6th. What an absolute blinder back behind the 2 Nissans. That's where the show was today. Race score by Shell. Mark Scaife confirming wins round number 4 here today. Jimmy Richards places in 2nd. Well done. No baloney Tony for 3rd spot, followed by Glenn Seaton, Alan Jones. We'll be back, and hopefully the tempers will have cooled just a little.
Well, the more things change, the more things stay the same. 12 months down the track, we have 2 Nissans and a Ford in the top 3. And in third place, Glenn Seaton. Congratulations, Glenn.
Thank you.
Round for Glenn. Great effort, Glenn. Pretty hard work, but it keeps your championship hopes alive.
Yeah, it does really. It sort of keeps us in third position on the championships, and I really enjoyed today's race. I expected the Sierras to be fairly hard around here, and I'm very happy.
Looked like pretty hot, sweaty work. Well done, Glenn. In second place today, Jim Richards. Well done, Jimmy.
Thank you very much.
I think you won the round last year. Nissan's doing well around this track.
Yes, they're always going to do well here, and it was a good effort.
Well done. And in first place today, Mark Scaife. Well done, Mark. Great effort. The Nissans, if you don't mind me saying, looked to be doing it pretty easy from the commentary box.
Oh, well, they're a very good car, and this sort of circuit suits them. So, you know, in the early part of the race, we got a bit of a buffer and then tried to conserve the tyre. We were waiting for either Glenn or the little BMWs to catch us.
Terrific effort, Mark. Congratulations. From the Shell Company, Tom Smith to make the presentation.
Congratulations. Great drive and a great birthday present for you.